It's a beautiful day in Atlanta, and I know in New York you have quite a few snowstorms, and but it's beautiful here. So today is a very special day for me. Two things. I got my first sponsor on my Zoom. I had no idea what a sponsor was, to be honest with you. I spoke to a couple of people. They said, you're getting so big, you need to have somebody to sponsor your Zoom. And came along one of my real dear friends, Dr. Miles. And let me tell you a story about Dr. Miles. I met Dr. Miles probably maybe 15 years ago. And I met him through Ron Swoboda, Art Shamsky, Lenny Randall. We had an event down at the ballpark down in Boca, I believe. And I met somebody that is, number one, he's one of the nicest human beings you have ever met, number one. Number two, he is a doctor of psychology, two. And three, he knows baseball as well as anybody. This guy he's incredible. I mean, by talking to him 15 years ago, and to be honest with you, I really didn't know too much about, psychology and athletics. But all of a sudden, when I was talking to, maybe 10, 12, 13 years ago, I was talking to Bobby Cox, of course, the manager for the Atlanta Braves, who was my teammate and was one of my roommates in Syracuse when I played for the Syracuse Chiefs. And he was actually talking to me about a psychologist that the Atlanta Braves got on the team, Jack Llewellyn. I don't know if that name is familiar to you at all.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But he became, I think, maybe the first psychologist in professional baseball, I think. So we're talking at a golfing event, and I said, why do you need a psychologist? Well, at that time, they had some outstanding pitchers on the team. They had, let me see, Steve Avery. They had Tommy Glavine. They had Greg Maddux. And let me see, who else? John Smoltz. And they said, these guys, even though that they're pitchers and a lot of them are future Hall of Famers, and they became Hall of Famers, they would always come in and they would always go into a slump. And I said, what do you mean? Well, if they, sometimes they'll lose a ball game 2-1. The next day they'll lose, next time they'll start, they lose 3-1. So, it was really nobody for them to talk to. And so at that time, I forgot who was I was living in Atlanta. I forgot the owner. Was it Ted Turner? It might have been Ted Turner that owned the team then. They got a psychologist, and it really helped them. And so I was thinking about this. And when I met Miles down in Florida, when we had the event, the baseball event, his son was also there. And we became really close friends. And he told me what he was doing. And then all of a sudden, throughout the years, going to Yankee Stadium and seeing guys on the team, a lot of guys, when we went into slumps, when I played baseball, the only thing what we actually did, and we do go into slumps, and we had 1-year contracts. And when we actually go into a slump, if we go over 10 and over 12, we might get sent down to the minor leagues or never come up to the big leagues. So we really didn't have anybody to talk to. And the only guy that I actually had to talk to was Elston Howard, who was our hitting coach. And when I went into a slump, he would say, get into the whirlpool and throw your bat into the whirlpool. That's the only thing we actually did. We didn't have any idea. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have anybody to talk to. So, you're thinking about this, and you really had nobody to actually, when you are in the slump, you think about it. You go home, you go 0 for 4, you struck out 4 times. The next day, you go 0 for 3, you strike out 2 times. The next day, you go 0 for 4, you leave a guy on third base. Then all of a sudden, you're 0 for 12. So, you're not going to go home to your wife. You're not going to call up a ball player and say, what am I doing incorrectly? You go to a hitting coach. A hitting coach back then was a guy, was really not the hitting coach, but he was a good hitter in the big leagues. And he would always say, well, hit 2 to right and go up the middle. That was what we did. But the Yankees, Major League Baseball, after Jack Llewellyn came in and to solidify everything for the Braves and how well that they actually did, and it really helped. I found Miles down in Florida, and probably about I've been thinking about this for years. I see kids all the time. I have so many friends that actually have young kids that are in travel baseball, starting to play baseball. The first thing that they actually do, they get lessons from parents. They spend, gosh, I can't tell you how much they could spend in lessons. And then they go play baseball games. And when they go play baseball games and they go 0 for 4, mom and dad say, well, I spent so much money to give you lessons. Why did you go 0 for 4? Or why did you throw up a home run? And then they come back and then they start thinking about this. And it puts a lot of pressure on kids. Mm-hmm. And when I met Miles, we started actually talking. And number one, he's very, very good friends with all, well, to be honest with you, I think I might be his only Yankee friend. But his best friends are the Mets. And from Tom Seaver to Kuzman and to Grody and to Sham and to Swoboda and to Boswell and to Lenny Randall and all those guys. So basically, so we actually started talking, and this is a baseball show, and it's fun to talk to ball players, of course, but it's fun to talk about what will make a ball player and what will make a person better. Okay, and everybody's always under pressure, and what we have this year with the virus, everybody's under pressure. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a perfect example of somebody who's, number one, has been doing this for 20 years, who has a gigantic practice down in Florida, who is one of the best of the best. He does a lot of teams. His son is an excellent, and I'm so proud of his son. His son just got a scholarship to a nice school up in Pennsylvania. Number one, it's a great academic school. And number two, it's a very good baseball school. And so he's playing baseball. And when you go and play college baseball, there's pressures after pressures after pressure. And there's so many everybody looks at a computer and they look at how to hit, but they don't look at the brain. Right. They look at, how you're standing and, how you swing and you swing it too hard, you're taking your eye off the ball. But your mental capacity is 75%. It's 25% ability and 75% up in your head. And it's very, very easy when you are swinging and you're hitting the ball real well, the baseball looks like a balloon to you. But when you're in a slump, it looks like a blueberry or a small little, it's a little pea. So, it's very, very difficult. So you take a lot of pressure. So once I received Miles, once I got Miles, and I started talking to him, and what he does, and I thought this is a great time that I can have a sponsor and a very, very dear friend of mine that we could go over quite a few different things. And I'd like to introduce you to Miles. Miles has been my friend for many, many years. He's been a psychologist for over 20 years, and he works with unbelievable pitchers and unbelievable hitters. And he works with everybody from soccer to basketball, but he works with people. And I think it's and I want everybody to, you know, say hello to him on my Facebook. Just say, hello, Miles. You're going to be listening to him. You're going to maybe have questions, and hopefully you get to meet him. And hopefully, if you actually love to, I'm going to put his picture and his email up that you could talk to him about your son, your grandson that plays travel baseball. He's not hitting the baseball. He's not making the team. He's just under.
Miles, why don't you say a few words, because we're running into a time problem here.
Well, first off, I appreciate being on. Thank you very much, Boomer. It's awesome to be able to do this. Yeah, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I started as a clinical child psychologist. I have degrees and I have a doctoral degree in clinical child psych. I have a master's in school psychology and a master's in sports psychology. I'm definitely one of those overeducated guys. But I'm done with school, not going back. But you know, my passion is sports, and obviously baseball. I love baseball. I love football. I never played football outside of in college, where we played two-hand touch, which turned into tackle, and I received my first concussion there, and then my second concussion there. But I've always gravitated towards baseball. It's the history of the game that has drawn me in. I have a memorabilia collection that dates back to the 1860s. You know what I mean? The rules, the change, the strategy that used to be in the game, which unfortunately is not so much in the game anymore. It's all analytically driven, which I know it's considered strategy, but I consider strategy, you know, Billy Martin's work and Earl Weaver and Sparky Anderson and all the real managers back in the day, and Bobby Valentine and La Russa, which will be interesting because he's coming back as manager, I think, of the White Sox. And I'm curious to see how he's going to manage with this day of analytics. He was a manager, from everything I've read, who went by his gut. And I missed that. I also missed Earl Weaver arguing with the umpires too. And we're not going to see that anymore too much either. But in terms of things that I do, and I'm going to go back to what you said about, let's say you have a ball player and he strikes out 3-4 times, and then he goes the next game and the next game and the next game, and they're struggling. I would take the same thought process as if you have a reliever who blows a game. He's got to come back the next day. You have to have a short memory. If you carry yesterday's game into today's game, that 0 for 4 is going to go to 0 for 8 and 0 for 12 and then 0 for 16. And it just becomes a spiral, a downward spiral that you just can't get out of. So I have a short memory. You got to focus on what you can control out there. And there's not a lot you can control as an athlete, especially in baseball. A pitcher, you have a little bit of control until you release the ball. After that, nothing. I mean, the only thing that the batter really has control over is himself, his breathing, his focus, his attention. Can't control the umpire, the fans in the stands, the other team. You can't even control what's going to happen to the ball after you hit it. So if we focus on our control, if we set goals, you know, and I'll give you an example of a goal. And this actually, I'm so proud of my son, Ron. Thanks for mentioning my son, because he's been my guinea pig over the years in terms of everything I do, all the chapters in the book that I've been writing. He edits them thinking that he's editing for me, but they're really written for him to read so that he gets it too. So last year, before the pandemic shut every game down, my son came to me after a game And he's like, Dad, you're going to love what I just did. The team is talking about how much they strike out. And their mantra is don't strike out, don't strike out. And he taught them what I taught him. Well, the word don't is not processed well by the mind. So when you say don't strike out, you're really saying strike out. For example, if you go to a restaurant and the waitress says, don't touch hot plate, well, most of us touch it right away. It's partly we're being jokes, but it's not, the word don't is not registered. So instead of saying don't strike out, my son told them, make hard contact. Just turn it around. There's no guarantees you're going to get a hit, but you have a better chance if you're focusing on making hard contact. And that could be one of your goals, just make hard contact. And it's very specific and it's achievable. It's challenging, obviously, when someone's throwing 90 something miles per hour with dramatic bite on the ball to make that contact. But if that's your goal and your focus is there, you stand a better chance than if you say, don't miss the ball. Because you're gonna miss the ball if you say don't miss the ball. You tighten up. You want to play loose. You want to play free. Also, Ron, getting back to what you said about the travel ball today, I mean, I've been immersed in it since my son was 6 years old. Now he's 18. Next year he is going off to college. And so I don't do as much with him anymore. I coached him up until he was 12 when I knew it was time for professionals to coach. And yes, we spent a lot of money on catching lessons and hitting lessons and fielding lessons and travel tournaments to Georgia and to East Cobb and to Hoover, Alabama and Fort Myers, Florida. And, the amount of mileage I've put on my car, it's just crazy. The hotel stays, the tournament fees, the uniform, and catching gear is expensive. So yeah, you spend a lot of money. And I have definitely worked with parents who, after their kid struggles, says, why are you struggling? I pay all this money. You're wasting money. You're wasting money. Well, I would really focus more on their effort. If their effort's there, that's the first step. Okay, if their effort's not there, fine, you are wasting your money. But if the effort's there, you know what? The results just aren't there yet. You gotta be resilient. You gotta get back up when life kicks you down, and you just gotta keep trying. It's like a basketball player who's a really good shooter, but they're cold in the beginning. You just got to keep feeding them the ball, and eventually they're going to find their touch. And the same thing in baseball, and the same thing in football, and the same thing in soccer. It all works the same. But basically, all I'm saying here is you got to trust the process. If you don't trust the process, you don't trust all the work that you've put in, all the sacrifices you've made, it doesn't matter what you do afterward, because it's just not going to happen. So, it's interesting. The mind is so powerful. And Ron, I'm going to make one correction. It's not 75-25. It's 90%, 10%. 90% of the game is physical. 10% is mental. Backwards. 90% of the game is mental. 10% is physical. Yet we practice it 90% of the time and practice the mental part only 10%. So we need to kind of do more mental skills training, become that mentally tough athlete who, no matter what, you let the stuff roll off your shoulders, have that short memory, go from, pitch to pitch, bat to bat, game to game. And that's it. If you start looking too far into the future, or I want to go 5 for 5 today. I mean, it's possible, but if that's what your focus is, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. Every at bat, every pitch is independent of each other pitch. Yes, I know the strategy involved. You're 0-2, you're probably going to get a curveball low in the dirt. Although today now they just throw fastballs by you, or they try to throw fastballs by you. But have a plan, follow the plan. If it's not working, you take a look at it and you amend it, and then you go on. So you trust the process. You work your tail off. You have a good time, because especially for youth athletes, and I'm glad, and a lot of them have designs on playing professionally, as we know that most won't. But have fun. Enjoy, especially baseball. It's such a fun sport. And I still remember the few moments I had when I played into high school where I did well, not a lot, but I did well. And I still remember those moments, and it brings back good memories. So, make memories, have fun, focus on what you can control, set the goals, trust in the process, and enjoy.
Why do you think we have him on? Why do you think he's a sponsor? You could tell that's why he's very successful. That's why major leaguers, just not baseball, but throughout sports, even colleges now, even some high schools have sports psychologist. You know, I mean, this is number one. It's a major business. Plus, it helps the kids.
Yes.
And you can see how I'm relaxed now. I'm about ready to fall asleep. This is wonderful. This is great. Miles, you know, you explained yourself extremely well. I mean, I appreciate you be part of this. And I think the fans, I think all the baseball people, even if you're not a baseball person, you know, this is part of life that you have to go through. This is just not one aspect. This is such an important part that, you know, we need to go through, especially in this time of age. But, you know, baseball's around the corner now. And, you know, and we haven't played baseball. The kids have not played almost in 2 years. So they're going to go out and put a lot of pressure on themselves. So if you listen to somebody like Miles, who is just unbelievable, he's great with kids. And I mean, that's why he's part of this program. And I want him to be a very, very big part. And I want the fans to really take advantage of him and to listen to him and to talk to him. And that's why, you know, to make sure that, you know, of course, you just met him today, but I would tell you right now, I've known him for 15 years, 20 years, maybe a little bit longer.
About a dozen years, actually.
Yeah, about a dozen, but he's the best of the best. And he's a wonderful, wonderful family person. And his kids are just wonderful. And it is what it is. And I want you to welcome him aboard. And he's going to be great for our nice Zoom. And hopefully he's on this for a long, long time. So Miles, thank you very much, big guy.
Thank you.
We're going to be seeing you an awful lot again. I know that I know you're coming up to Alabama in the next couple of weeks for tournaments. I hope you do extremely well. I know that you will. And I know that you're going to stop in and we're going to have lunch. And I talk to you every single day, but I love you, big guy.
Thanks, man, Boober. I love you too. You're great. I appreciate everything.
Ron, why don't you talk about tonight's show?
Okay, tonight we have a very, very special guest. This is in 2000. When did I go to Israel? Lenny or Joe, you got to tell me, 2006 or 2007. I don't remember dates. But anyway, I managed with Kenny Holzman and Art Shamsky out in Tel Aviv. We had the first professional baseball league in Israel. He was my assistant coach whenever I traveled back and forth to the States to my camp. I went back and forth. We stayed in Israel for 3 months. Eric Holtz. He's really not assistant coach. To be honest with you, he was the main coach. I'm just going to give you real quickly. I am not a coach. I'm a player. I love to play baseball. I would not make a good manager. I would not make a good coach because the only thing I knew how to do was hit the ball, run around the bases, catch the ball, throw people out, steal, you know, that's what I did. But to coach, to call a game, I was not like that. So Eric is going to be on tonight. He's wonderful. Plus we got 3 ex-major leaguers that's going to be on. Danny Valencia. I got to read this because usually I call them big guys. Jeremy Blige and Ryan, you know, I mean, you got to help me. Levon White. And, you know, you just got to help me out with names. I'm not good with names. Usually I call them big guys, but Eric would tell you a little bit story tonight that whenever we did the lineup card, all the way down, big guy, big guy, big guy, because I didn't know anybody's names. But anyway, it's going to be a wonderful night tonight. We're going to be talking about the Israeli baseball team. They'll be playing pretty soon, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. See y'all tonight at 8 o'clock. And we got 3 new rules in the game of baseball for spring training. They're taking a little bit of velocity out of the baseball. There's no a universal DH. in the 7-inning double headers. And like I told the guys, I didn't even know we played double headers. I knew we played a game and a B game. But anyway, it's a change, but it's getting close to baseball. I told you 2021 is going to be better.